welcome to my channel. My name is Monica for those who are new, and if you are a returning subby, welcome back. I welcome you all to another episode of The Other Side with Monica. This is a safe space we have created here on the internet for people who are navigating life after a high control religious experience. Here we share stories, we share insights, we share experiences on this very challenging but rewarding journey. And today we are joined by someone very special, someone who I'm very excited to have this conversation with. We are going to be chatting with Amani Channel, all the way from Atlanta. Hi,
Hey,
Amani.
good morning. How you doing? Or good afternoon. How it is there?
It is afternoon on my side, but good morning for you. Thank you so much for availing yourself and having this conversation with us.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Alrighty, let's get straight on into it because you grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and a lot of my audience here don't know much about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Some do. So maybe just enlighten us a little bit about your experience as someone who grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, first of all, I wasn't born in a Jehovah's Witness situation. My mom was I think they were Buddhist. My mother and father were Buddhist when my first memories of their religion was Buddhism. And then my mom got involved with the Pentecostal church, and I'm not so sure why she quit Buddhism or what she was looking for. My dad said she was really looking for a community. Yeah, when I was like 7, the Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on the door, and instead of running and hiding, my mom answered the door, and that started us down the rabbit hole. She quickly became embraced like the Bible studies, and I kind of ear hustled, so I was like listening to her Bible studies, and shortly after she started studying, we had a family tragedy. My youngest brother drowned in my grandfather's house. And that I think threw my mom in a hole because she was kind of watching her brother, and just because one circumstance or another, she kind of lost her focus, and he ended up going back in the hot tub while we weren't paying attention to him. And so after he drowned, I remember saying to my mom, "Well, we'll see Robin again in paradise." And then I don't know if that really caused her to have more faith in the witnesses or not, but she definitely embraced the whole idea of a paradise, earth, resurrection. My brother and I, we started going to meetings with her and going out and field service. And then when I was like 11 or 12, I remember my dad got baptized. I guess it was when I was 11 because my dad got baptized before I did, and I got baptized when I was 12. Yeah, it was just going out and field service. It's definitely a high control situation. But going out and field service, going to meetings often, like I think Sunday we had the Watchtower studies, public talk. Tuesday we had the Ukrainian Music School, and then on Thursdays we had the Bible study, and then we also had a family Bible study night. So basically, every night of the week we're doing something kind of religious or spiritual, as Jehovah's Witnesses call it. And then when I hit my teenager years, kind of changed. I mean, my friend group we ended up partying a lot, getting involved in alcohol, partying, a little bit of inappropriate, smoking the marijuana, that sort of thing. Um, I got put on public approval, so that's kind of like where I'll stop there and see if you have any questions about how I was raised.
Wow, you have shared so much. And firstly, I'm so sorry about your brother. And when you shared that, it really resonated with me as well because when my mom became a Jehovah's Witness, she was also going through a very challenging period in her time. For those that don't know, I'm from South Africa, and South Africa used to be segregated. So when I was born, someone had just been assassinated, someone who was like promising a black person who looked like they were going to become the president of South Africa, the first black president. So when he became assassinated, the whole country just went into this deep, dark place because we didn't know the future, we didn't know what was going on. And that's how my mom got essentially roped into the religion. She was
Mm.
also going through postpartum depression. And that's the thing a lot of people need to really be wary of, that these high control religions really pry on people who are going through challenging periods in their lives. And yeah, if you're going through a lot, they want you essentially. So you mentioned that you got reproved. How was that experience? Because you always hear these stories about how people just are constantly monitored when they are Jehovah's Witnesses, and you're being policed all the time. And you were just being a teenager, experimenting, getting to know yourself. So how was that experience?
That was kind of lightweight. I mean, I remember that so when I started like dabbling with marijuana, I'll say, for some reason I got some seeds, so I wanted to see if they were gonna grow, and I planted them in like small planting things. And my sister, who was like really young, she was like 7 or 8, or maybe she was young. She went and told my mom, Amani's growing plants. My mom was like, what plants is he growing? And then she showed my mom or my dad the weed plants. So that kind of let my parents know that we were kind of dabbling in marijuana. And then basically, I told the brothers that I had smoked, and they wanted to have a judicial meeting with me and my brother, because my younger brother was like 2 years younger. And I remember they were asking a lot of questions. And one of the elders said, well, I suppose if you smoke weed, it's kind of like if you drink a lot, if you like drink alcohol. And at that point, I was kind of like laughing, because, and after the meeting, I said, Pop, they've never been high. We kind of laughed. My dad even laughed about it, because my dad, he took the situation seriously, but he was kind of like, he kind of knew the brothers are kind of not really with it as well. So he kind of laughed with me when we were like, I said, hey, the brothers have never been high. And then, so when I got put on public proof, there was like a bunch of young people in our congregation. So actually, when I got put on public proof, there were like 5 of us who got reproved together because of the same thing. But that's kind of what happened. And then I remember that right after I got put on public proof, I was leaving for college. So that's really what I remember about. We were obviously repentant. The brothers weren't really trying to disfellowship me, I guess. They could have, I guess, if they wanted to, but they just they asked who I talked to, who I told. There's like one sister who I talked to about it, so because of that, I think this is why they reproved us. Or else it would have just been private reproof, but that's how they do things.
Yeah, when you're being reproved, it's honestly something very intense. I fortunately have never been reproved when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was a goody two shoes, to be honest. Like, I minded my own business, and I was like living a double life. And a double life just means that I had my own life at school and my
Yeah.
own life at the Kingdom Hall and my family. And I do have, or at the time, I had friends who were reproved, and can actually be very intense, especially if it's of a sexual nature. I remember there was a friend of mine who was a woman, and she had, sexual relations with someone before getting married, and she felt guilty. So she told the elders what happened, and the questions were so inappropriate. Like when she told me, I was like, girl, first of all, why would you tell these people your business like that? And secondly, how could these men ask such inappropriate questions? Like they were asking her, like, did you enjoy it? How many times did you do it? Did this person, ejaculate? Did they come? Where did they do that? Like the questions can be so intrusive. And I remember I did a video on my channel talking about how the government of Japan is really cracking down on the Jehovah's Witnesses. And they spoke about how just this whole process of just questioning people and having a whole thing about reproving them when it comes to, say, their sexuality and the things that they do, especially minors, in itself is a form of sexual assault. So people should be wary of that.
Mhm.
So this leads me to my next question. I want to know, like, how did you eventually leave the religion?
So I kind of left out the back door. So in let's see, 1995, I went to the University of Florida after going to community college for a couple of years. So I ended up going to Florida, and I was still a Jehovah's Witness. Like I just lost my privileges, and I told myself that I wasn't going to go to college and like lose my religion, basically. So I was very focused on. I still went to meetings. There was like a few witnesses at Florida, and I went out in service, and I was going to assemblies and doing the whole deal. But and I was, I was kind of partying and doing a little bit of dabbling when I was in college, but not like anything major. And then after I graduated, I basically moved back to California, and I never talked to the brothers in Gainesville where I was going to college, and I never sent my publisher record card back to my home congregation. I just kind of moved back home and didn't even talk to my congregation in Florida. And so once that happened, like I ended up getting a job in Washington D.C. shortly thereafter, and that was it. Like I kind of basically started fading then. When I was in DC, I had two roommates who weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was thinking to myself like, these are not witnesses, but they're definitely good brothers. And it didn't make sense to me that Jehovah would destroy them in Armageddon or anything like that. I was like, it just wouldn't make sense, because they were good brothers. And then I ended up going to like, so my career was in broadcast television, and I was shadowing a reporter, and I was working on a story with him in DC. And one Sunday, we went to a church, and they were singing praises to Jehovah. And I was like, it didn't make. I was like, this is a like worldly church. Why are they singing praises to Jehovah? And then one thing led to another. I ended up getting a job in Tampa, Florida, and then I just like one thing led to another, and I just kind of faded out slowly, and I just realized that Joe Witness is on some bullshit, basically. Um, and yeah, I just stopped really believing. I met my wife in DC. She was my girlfriend at the time. She ended up attending a memorial. So the last memorial I attended was probably in 1998, probably 97, 98. And a sister asked my wife.
Amani, I think you are muted.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
And yeah, so I was in DC, and a sister asked my wife, like, "Are you a witness?" And my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now. She's like, "No, I'm not a witness." And the sister was like, "Well, it's never gonna work then. It's never gonna work then." And we're still married to this day. But yeah. So just one thing led to another. Once I got to Florida, and once I got a job in Tampa, and I just sort of drifted away, and just I got a book that kind of opened my eyes to some other things, and I started getting exposed to like different religions, and got exposed to like different ways of thinking, and I was just open minded, and I just realized that there are different ways that you can believe in. There are different schools of thought basically on Earth.
Definitely. Your story is so interesting. We have a few questions actually in the comment section. We have Andy Kendrick who joined saying this conversation is enlightening, and a few people saying hi. Hi, Ragnar and McKellen. And then Andile also has a question. He's wants to know how was it like going door to door and trying to convert people into the religion. And maybe you can also share one of your worst experiences being a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, so as far as worst experience, I didn't have any worst experience. Like I enjoyed being a Jehovah's Witness pretty much. We had a lot of youth in our congregation. We had a lot of friends. We had a lot of fun times. We basically, so we were, I guess you could say we lived a double life, but we basically drank on the weekends and partied and went to field service every Saturday with hungover and feeling kind of not right. So that's kind of how we lived. Um, Going out on field service wasn't really a big deal. I mean, it was at first, but you kind of get over it. You get over your fears of talking to people. You're basically being a salesperson, basically, what is a sales job for Jehovah, basically, is what it is. And I had a guy sell stationery door to door is like for to raise money to make money when I was younger. So it wasn't really much different from that. It's just you knock on doors, you talk to people. You hope they're not home, of course. I do remember one time when I was like, so my community was very much a urban setting. So it was there's a lot of like in the 80s and 90s, a lot of crack sales, a lot of young people making wrong decisions. I remember being out in field service doing return visits one day, and being in a particular neighborhood, and like across the street was like a drug hole basically. I remember like fiends driving up and young people like selling drugs like in the open, like in the middle of the day. Like it was crazy. That's one of the memories that I really remember about field service and about going door to door when I was younger growing up. But yeah, we had a lot of fun being like we had fun. I can't complain about it at all. Like we used to play football, play basketball in the congregations. We'd have house parties. The house parties would get turned out. Like I mean, I remember one time one of my homegirls had a house party, and my brother was like, his spider senses were going off. He's like, let's take a walk around the block. When we got back around the block, there were police there. Like there was a fighting. Like um, the witnesses from San Francisco were getting stomped out by the witnesses from East Palo Alto, which is where I'm from. It was it was crazy. But yeah, that's what that's just how it was back in the day. It was just kind of wild. Yeah, but I don't really have any bad memories. It was like, I mean, other than it being a high control situation, like me and my brother realized at a young age that like if you dated like with girls in the congregation, you'd get in trouble and that sort of thing. So we ended up like talking to mostly worldly girls and that sort of thing. That was kind of the biggest thing I remember.
Wow, your stories, Amani, they really you know, yeah, and Dila saying uncle is a real one for sure. And yeah, you definitely are a real one. Because my experience as well is quite similar to yours in the sense that it wasn't bad. Like, the community, the sense of community we had as well in our congregation was quite nice. However, we had an elder who was quite controlling. Actually, we had a few elders who were quite controlling, but the sense of community was actually quite there. And even now that I've left, it's something I still miss, I'll be honest. So, yeah, wow, your stories are so interesting. Now, how do you think? Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing as well, that being a Jehovah's Witness, you mentioning that you guys encountered like people selling drugs, it just made me realize also like just going door to door actually can really expose you to dangerous situations. Because I remember we also went door to door and there was a man who was naked and he was like trying to get us into his house. He was like, come in, it was just me and another lady. So we were actually put in dangerous situations, and thank goodness nothing bad happened to some of us. Some people aren't that fortunate because they do have some dark and sad stories that happen to them while being Jehovah's Witnesses. But
Mhm.
this leads me to my next question of, how do you think, the religion has impacted your life now that you've left? Do you feel that it still has an impact, or were you able to just completely let go once you decided to move on with your life?
The only area that I really see the religion having an impact is in terms of holidays and gifts. Like, I still don't really get into holidays. Like, I still really don't. Like, I'm not a good gift giver, like, for whatever reason. Like, I'm always procrastinating in terms of Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that. My wife will tell you that I'm not really a good gift giver, and I attribute that to me being a Jehovah's Witness. But other than that, like, I don't even think about it. Like, I started I started a podcast. I have a YouTube channel that I started several months ago, and I started interviewing SJWs. And other than like me realizing that online there's a very strong community of XJWs, I hadn't really thought about like even right after. So when I got to Florida, my brother ended up moving to Tampa with me, and we never went to meetings. We never even talked about being a Jehovah's Witness. We only recently talked about our experience in Florida and like being a Jehovah's Witness, and we just never talked about it. It just wasn't really. It hasn't been a part of my life in years. And other than like the gifts, I say there's little to no impact. Sometimes the brothers will come. They used to come to our door sometimes. They get all excited when I say I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, but I don't ever see myself going back. My wife kind of thinks that one day I may go back, but no, it's not in me anymore. I feel like I've evolved way past the way of thinking, way past. Even when I was Jehovah's Witness, like my dad was very open minded. He was a lawyer, and he didn't agree with like the beard rule, and like we used to not shave, and the elders would be like, "Brother Channel, get your boys to shave," and he'd be like, "You talk to them about it." He's like, "It's not my deal. Like it's not even a biblical principle." Um, then my dad ended up encouraging us to go to college in one way or another. I mean, he didn't really encourage us, but he kind of used a backdoor method. So I was going to be a barber, and go to like trade school. And my dad was like, "Well, why don't you just take a couple classes at community college?" That's what he ended up doing, and that's what I did, and that led to me getting into broadcasting. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, he was kind of a more free thinker, and I think that definitely rubbed off on me indirectly, and so that's why I kind of like was able to walk away without even really about it.
I'm still surprised that your parents were Buddhists. Like, how do Black people become Buddhist? Maybe I'm sounding a bit ignorant because to me, people who are Buddhist are like Indian. So, do you know how your parents, got involved in that form of spirituality?
I really don't. I think my father's my aunt was a Buddhist, and she introduced my mom to Buddhism, and then my mom introduced my her sister to Buddhism, who she lives in California now. She's still alive. My mom's passed away, but I don't know how they got why she gravitated towards that school of thought or that faith. I really don't know. My aunt. So when I was home in California, I just got back from California. I ended up chanting with my aunt a couple times. She was like really excited. She's like, "Oh, your mom would be so proud of you." But I mean, I just did it because I'm really open minded now. Basically, we did the whole Nam Yoho Renge Kyo, Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. But it's all part of humanity. Basically, it's all part of a faith that humanity has, and I feel like there's truth in all religions now. I feel like there's some truth in all religions, but I feel like Christianity has definitely been manipulated. It's been um negatively influenced. It's been used as a control mechanism and a really a religion to colonize the world. I feel like Christianity has been used, and that's Jehovah's Witnesses are just like I feel like all of Christianity is kind of a cult, and that Jehovah's Witnesses are just more controlling than other forms of Christianity. Really, that's really what I believe.
Wow, the points you're making right now are actually leading me to my next question for you. I wanted to know, like, what are your feelings now towards organized religion? And we have a few people in the comment section saying hi. Hi, Vidi. So, yeah, let us know, what are your feelings towards organized religion right now?
So I feel like organized religion is good for community, and some people need organized religion, right? People on different vibrations, different frequency levels. So for people who need religion, I mean that is good for them. And I don't knock anyone's faith, but it's not for me anymore. Organized religion is not for me anymore. I don't believe in organized religion. Organized religion a lot of times is man-made. It's very controlling. It's used to control man and control their thoughts, control their actions. Like, that's sort of my thoughts on it. I don't really believe in it personally, but I don't knock anyone who's a Christian or Muslim or any faith really, because they obviously need that religion for their sanity or for their understanding of life. It's there for a reason.
That is so true. So, what do you practice now? Are you like into any form of
No, I just
anything?
so now I meditate and do breath work, and I still believe in God. I believe in the central, the grand central sun or the monad. I'm more of a if you look in a Gnostic Christianity, I more have beliefs like that, or the law of one, the raw material. I more have beliefs that are in line with that. I have all sorts of thoughts, but it's just really not important what I believe in. Each person kind of has to find the truth for themselves. I feel like each person has to go within their own heart and find what's truthful for themselves.
Yeah, that's definitely important. This book I always talk about, even here on My Lives, by Patrice Sombre, and he's a man who's a shaman who grew up in Burkina Faso, and he talks about how even in African spirituality, it's very important for people to be different, for people to practice different things, have different beliefs, because that's the beauty of life, our differences. We weren't all meant to, have the same beliefs or the same faith system. Your difference is what makes you special as an individual, and that's your journey. So yeah, I totally resonate with what it is that you're saying. So yeah, I have a personal question on my side. I was talking to actually some of the people who are on this live who were part of this conversation, where they were asking me about my experience of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness and how it has impacted my life. And I've actually been single for some time now, and I thought to myself, I've just been single because I've just been focusing on my life. But recently, I think I've just realized that there's still a lot of fear that I have. And I definitely do think it's my religious upbringing that has also played a role, because I do feel that growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, and maybe even Christians can relate, that as a woman, sometimes you are raised in a way to not really see men for who they really are, and not just men, but even just life in general. And the world can be very dangerous, especially when you grow up in a very high control religion like the Jehovah's Witnesses, where your life is just so secluded and sometimes overly protected because you're not really engaging with worldly people. So I realized for me there's a lot of fear. So how are you able to navigate, a relationship after leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, unpacking so many things in your life, deconstructing all of that? How are you able to just still navigate that part of your life?
So since I left Joe's Witness kind of slowly in terms of my personal like learnings and that sort of thing, I really didn't even look at people as worldly. Like once I got to DC and had my roommates and realized they were good brothers, I just looked at people as people. That's really important. I feel like the whole worldly versus non-worldly perspective is kind of like detrimental because it causes separation. It makes you think that you're better than someone else or you're different than someone else. And yeah, I just sort of I just slowly like I didn't even believe in it actually after I left the organization. So I can't really say that I had to deconstruct a whole lot. Obviously, I did, but I didn't like lose my identity or be like, oh, my whole childhood was a lie. I never even thought about that. I just kind of like moved on with my life, and I kind of learned new information, and what I believed in. What I didn't, I kind of threw away to the side. So that's kind of how I was able to reconcile my upbringing with my current reality.
That's amazing, honestly, because so many people who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses, especially the men, I feel like can be so toxic, and there's just a lot of toxicity that can be internalized, and just not just to make it a men versus a woman situation, but I'm always surprised when I meet a man who grew up in a very religious setting and who's open minded like that, because I do feel that men really benefit from religion, and it makes you guys more toxic. But anyways, we have a question. Oh wow, folks, this person is definitely South African because they're asking Kimang and Tato. That just means who's this man? This man is Amani Channel. Amani Channel actually has his own YouTube channel. You guys need to check it out because wow, if you're into conversations around spirituality, I promise you, it is the channel for you. Amani talks about aliens. Let's get into aliens, Amani. Do you believe in aliens?
I say there's probably 100% chance that aliens exist. Just because, I mean, if you look at life in general, right? How do plants grow? They go with seeds, right? Well, how are humans planted? How are humans embedded on this earth? Maybe there were other life forms that came to Earth and seeded us the same way. So yeah, I definitely believe in aliens. I definitely believe in like look into Pleiadians, Lyrians. There's a whole fascinating idea around other star systems and other soul families that we're probably related to. Especially if you look at how you um, how you understand life and what you gravitate towards, that's probably a hint about your lineage. And yeah, I definitely believe that there are other life forms that exist, and there are probably other life forms amongst us. Really,
I kind of believe it as well. Here in South Africa, we practice African spirituality because obviously South Africa is in Africa, and different clans, different kingdoms of people here in Africa have different stories when it comes to the creation of life. And in the Zulu clan, they also have story of creation, and they also talk about how we were seeded by beings from other planets, and I think they said like from Nibiru, if I'm not mistaken.
the
Yes.
Anunnaki, the exactly.
These really fascinate me, these conversations, because I don't have a lot of people in my life I can talk to about, Anunnakis and stuff like that. And there's like these, documentaries I sometimes get to watch. I know there's one on YouTube, I mean, on Netflix that really intrigued me. I can't remember the name, but they were talking about just how there's different civilizations around the planet that have the same story about creation, and this man was talking about it, and I found it very, very interesting. And yeah, okay, we do have a question. Someone wants to know, what is this religion? um we're not talking about any specific religion right
No,
now.
I'm not religious.
Amani.
I'm not
Yeah.
religious at all. No, I don't believe in religion. Like religion's for me. I mean, it's man-made. If you can believe in religion if you want to, but I'm not religious at all. I'm more spiritual. I'm more believe in. I believe in everything pretty much. Other than religion.
No, I definitely support you on that as well. Religion for me, I feel it's man-made, like you've said, and it's definitely here to control us as people, but people do need it. Some people actually do need it. I see it with my own mother. Like, my father passed away 2 or 3 years ago, and her community, when it comes to her religion, really came through for her, and I do believe that it has helped her navigate this very different and challenging part of her life. So some
Mhm.
people do need religion. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a very random question because it has been sitting on me. You spoke about the no not the nomad.
The monad.
You Yes, I learned about this word quite recently from this professor who creates videos on YouTube. His channel's name is Predictive History. Professor Jiang, I think, and he spoke about the that word. I can't say it for some reason, and I was just so surprised. So in one of his other videos, he spoke about, he unpacks everything when it comes to life, politics, geopolitics, and how politicians do whatever it is that they do, the game of life and all of these things. And he was talking about Americans landing on the moon. And I realized I never watched the moon landing. Like all my life, I've just heard like, oh, Americans landed on the moon first. They landed
They
on the moon
didn't
first.
land on me. They
I
didn't.
wanted to ask you that. Do you believe that
No,
like the
no.
Americans landed?
I mean, maybe they landed on the moon, but it wasn't the Hollywood theatrical. Like there was no way they were broadcasting from the moon. That was all fake. They lost the data on how to get back to the moon or whatever. Like, how could you do that? Like, how could you not be able to return? Why haven't they returned to the moon if they could do it? I don't
I
know.
watched that broadcast for the first time literally last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is bad, guys. Like, it's so staged. It's
Mhm.
crazy. They literally have a camera on the moon and you see the spaceship just like, and it leaves. And it's like,
Well, they
the camera that's left.
how'd the cameraman get back to Earth, right?
Wow, this conversation, Haruki, has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it. And I think maybe we can slowly end off with this, where you talked about being a broadcaster and getting into newscasting. There's so many people who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses that I've realized that this is just my personal observation, that a lot of people who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses, we are not so afraid of being seen and sometimes, the limelight, if I could call it that. There's so many famous people who are Jehovah's Witnesses or who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses. And I always encourage people that if you want to leave this religion and maybe you're not educated, or you don't have you know something that can help you, you can also leverage the experiences that we have from the religion. Like public speaking can sometimes come easy to us, or sales. So anyways, I say all this to say, what advice could you give to someone who's probably looking to get into broadcasting, or maybe just any field in the media, and maybe them leveraging the experience of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, I interviewed a young lady recently who was also studying broadcasting or studying video production. Is a creative outlet for me. I really enjoy like the buttons and the technology and the ability to communicate with like many people. I think when I was in the career, 'cause I don't work in the field anymore, but I really just gravitated to it because I enjoyed it. Really, is what I just liked it. Um, I when I first started reporting, I really struggled with like the public speaking part. Believe it or not, I used to get really nervous on camera, but I kind of worked my jitters out and I kind of figured that out. What I would say to someone is just to take some classes, I would say, and then intern in the field. That's what really will let you know if you want to work in any field or not. Once you go to college, you can intern, and that's what my brother ended up doing. My brother actually works in broadcasting as well, and he just interned and got. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, my brother interned and then he ended up working in the field too. So interning will really let you know if a career field is for you or not. There are many skills that Joe's Witness have if they think about it. From sales, like you said, public speaking, coaching, you know, event planning, that sort of thing. And but getting a formal education will sometimes help you. But there are many different um, resources that you can find online that really you can get a certificate, a trade school. There are many like real estate. I think is good for Joe's Witnesses. There are many different fields that folks can look into, and you really can't look at being in the organization as a disadvantage. You really have to figure out and apply to your life how you can make it an advantage. Really, is the best advice I can give someone. Don't look at it like, oh, I didn't go to college. You don't have to go to college. Like there are people who are very successful who never went to college, who started businesses or who did other things. Um, so don't look at it like, oh, they discouraged me. Maybe they did discourage you from going to college, but you can still make money in this world if you didn't go to college.
Definitely. And it's never too late, honestly.
Hmm.
Like, there's people who go to college in their 50s and their 30s, like, honestly, at whatever age you are at, you can go to school. And even if finances, can be an issue, there's so much on the internet right now, free resources that you can utilize. And even these big universities like Harvard, for example,
Yep.
have free online courses
Yep.
that
Exactly.
a person can tap into. So don't let that hold you back. Wow, this conversation was so enlightening. I had so much fun. I feel like there's so much more we could cover and talk about, but like, where could I even like, go? Because your story is so interesting. It's really so interesting.
Yeah, what some people ask me is how was I able to walk away from religion pre-internet? Because I really didn't have a whole lot of internet influence when, like, I didn't go to any XJW YouTube channels back in the day. There were websites that I would visit, but I got a book on the auras. Actually, is what really kind of sparked my realization that God was bigger than the Bible. Really, is what it ended up being. There's a book on the auras by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and I think it was channeled through a couple of ascended masters. And as I dug in the book, there are some very biblical references, like the book reference Jesus Christ and reference like the Great Brotherhood. There are mentions of Melchizedek and the like. There's just it was a very spiritual book to me. There were like affirmations and incantations that were in the book, and as I kind of went through the book, I realized that there's probably more to life than just the Bible, and there's more that we haven't been taught. That's what really got me on this path. And then once I kind of got through that book, I started meditating. And then I read Planet X by Zachariah Sitchin, or The 12th Planet. That kind of introduced me to the whole idea of the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, and um, the engineering that happened to humankind, how we were maybe created by not by necessarily God necessarily, but by beings that we thought were gods, that people are thought were gods. And that sort of just put me on a different trajectory pretty much. So just baby steps, just step by step, I kind of realized that Jehovah's Witnesses didn't have the only true information. And even Jehovah's Witnesses have admitted that. Like they say that they're not inspired by God, they're not infallible. They've said that I think Jeffrey Jackson said that Jehovah's Witnesses would be presumptuous to think they're the only religion to have the true information from God, or be the only channel on earth. So if that's the case, then there's obviously other information that's out there that could be, spiritual, or could be the right information. So just follow the breadcrumbs, just follow the breadcrumbs right on out the Kingdom Hall.
That is so interesting. And I remember our conversation because I also do have a video that's coming out with Amani on his channel. I remember also asking you this, like, how were you able to leave pre the internet, like before the age of the internet? Because for me, the internet plays such a key role in me being able to leave because the information was so accessible on YouTube. And to hear how you had to read the book that you're referring to sounds so big to me. I feel
Mhm.
like I would have been scared to read a book like that because of you are so indoctrinated to fear books and content that is not part of the religion. So I think it was very courageous of you to be able to read that book.
Yeah, I mean, I was just more curious about the auras and about like chakras, and I was just curious about, because I knew that there was other information that was out there. It's more like, I guess, Eastern philosophy, or like more like that. But I was kind of open minded at that point, and I wasn't really afraid of the information because it was just a book. Like Joe's Witnesses encounter people every day in the door to door ministry that's counter to what they believe in. They talk to people all the time that don't believe the Trinity or whatever, and so what's wrong with learning information? It could just you just toss it out or you accept it. One or the other. You have two choices when you get new information. You accept it or you reject it. That's kind of how I was thinking.
No, that's actually so empowering. Like, it's just information, guys. You just taking it in. You don't have to change your whole life. You're
Exactly.
literally just learning, opening up your mind. But yeah, you mentioned the Anunnakis, and I've been not really like learning, like reading much about them. I've just been seeing stuff on the internet. Do you think they were black people, or do you think we look like the Anunnakis, black people? Because I'm seeing a lot of people saying that on the internet.
I'm not sure how they look, but they're like, if you look at the Sumerians, they kind of had in their stone art, they had beards that were kind of curly, and they had hair that looked like black people's hair. So maybe they were. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, but they're I don't know if it's really that important, but they probably did look something like black people. I felt like they probably did.
To me, I feel like it's important because okay, well, I'm just assuming. I'm not like saying these are facts, but when you learn about the story of creation and how civilizations, came to be on the planet, like in ancient Egypt, we're seeing now the Egyptians being portrayed as white people, even
Right.
though it's a country in Africa, and we're learning that okay, apparently the Anunnakis, gave us this technology, this knowledge, and civilizations were able to, come to be on the planet. And then now you're seeing it kind of being whitewashed. So that's why I'm like randomly asking, do you
Well,
think they were black?
everything's been whitewashed. Everything's been like everything. Even Jesus Christ, the image of Jesus Christ has been whitewashed. So, I mean, is it really important though? I don't feel like it's so important. It's just knowing that have a relationship with God, have a relationship with yourself, knowing whatever the truth is for yourself, just is having faith in that is what the most important thing is to me.
No, definitely, definitely. Did you know in South Africa we have the oldest calendar in the world? There's a place called Inzalo Yelanga. That's the Zulu word for it, but
Mm,
white people named it Adam's calendar, and it's a stone. I think it's called Stonehenge, and
mm.
it's an old calendar. And as we're talking about aliens and the story of creation from the Zulu people's perspective, I'm just thinking maybe that was, some of the technology that they gave to us because it's still working even till this day. It's a very old calendar, possibly over 300,000 years old. And it's interesting to me. That's why I think it's important that the knowledge that is being whitewashed for it to, for black people, African people to reclaim what is theirs so that we can be reminded and just see for ourselves that we are not inferior. We're actually very intellectual people and we are very much capable to, take care of the planet, take care of ourselves, and we're very knowledgeable, we're smart. So we shouldn't be, fooled by people who might want to, take some of our credit for some of the things that we've done.
Yeah, I feel like they know deep down what they've done. Like they know they've appropriated a lot of our culture and a lot of our history, and they know. I mean, look what Donald Trump is doing to like the books and knowledge in America when it comes to like Black history. Like they know what they're doing. It's very deliberate. But the truth is going to come out. They're going to know that we're the original man or whatever. That they copied everything. I mean, it's already in history. Like it's already known if they just look into history. They know what they've done. Um, and as long as I know, that's all that matters.
No, definitely, definitely. This conversation was so interesting. I honestly enjoyed it so much. Um, I'm not seeing any questions, guys. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to end it here. But I want to thank you so, so much, Amani, for availing yourself and sharing your experience and insights with us. Maybe you can leave us with a few words, maybe a words of encouragement, or just, some real talk from Uncle Amani.
I know, right? I'm a real one. Yeah, just look within. Just look within is sort of the best advice. If you want to learn more about me, you can check out Seeds of Awakening on YouTube or just Google Amani Channel, and you'll find links on my career or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm just a knowledge seeker. I just like to read history and learn about humanity, and I'm not like an expert in any one field. I just like to take in it all. And yeah, just look outside the Bible though. The Bible doesn't have all the answers, but it has definitely good principles, good stories. I feel like the Bible has a lot of allegories, and that it shouldn't be taken literally. The Bible should be taken figuratively a lot of times. But people take it literally. And that's fine. It's to each their own. But to look within yourself and really ask more questions is what I advise everyone to do. Just ask more questions.
I honestly have to resonate with that as well and just agree with what Amani is saying, guys. Like, you have to go within as an individual person when it comes to life, whatever journey you're on, whether you choose to be someone who's religious, whether you choose the path of spirituality, or even just being agnostic or atheist. What's important in this life is for you to go within and determine things for yourself. Don't let people, impose their belief systems, their own views on life onto you. We are all literally living different lives. Even if someone was born on the same day as you, in the same family, you are still leading different lives. So there's beauty in that. Be different, be yourself, and allow yourself to experience planet Earth.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to thank you all so much for watching. And once again, thank you so much for availing yourself, Amani. And I hope you all have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.